Hi everybody, it's nice to see you all. I am going to be doing a read aloud tonight. This one is called Joseph Had a Little Overcoat, and this is written by Sims Tabak. And it's an interesting story because Sims Tabak, he's both the author and the illustrator. And as we're listening to it, I'm also going to show you the illustrations because the illustrations sort of predict the next thing that happens. So as I read it, I'm going to show you how that works. So the the title page looks like this. And it says, Joseph Had a Little Overcoat by Sims Tabak. And it says, he wore the coat for a long time, and then something happened to it. Joseph had a little overcoat. It was old and worn. So we see, here's Joseph and here's his overcoat. And then if you look at the picture, we can see the illustrations, okay? But then notice how there's a cutout, okay? And see the cutout for the next picture? I don't know if you can see it. And so what's gonna happen is, watch how the next picture, when I turn it, it's right over the coat, okay? It says, so he made a jacket out of it. So he had an overcoat, okay? An overcoat is known as a pretty big, long coat that can go over a jacket, actually. And so it got so old and worn that he made a jacket out of it. And he went to the fair. So here's the illustration. And then what you're gonna notice, okay, see, these were the feathers that were from the previous illustration. So this really takes a lot of effort to make this. Joseph had a little jacket. It got old and worn. So we can see how his jacket is now old and worn. And so here is the next page. And once again, the author illustrator has a cutout here, okay? And so because the jacket got old and worn, he made a vest out of it and danced at his nephew's wedding. So we can see here he is now, he's in his vest. He's taken that coat and he's made a vest out of it. And he's at his nephew's wedding. Joseph had a little vest. It got old and worn. Okay, so take a look. Here it is. Now it's even a smaller little area that's open. So he made a scarf out of it. Okay, so there he is wearing his scarf. So notice how the picture that was cut out from before is now two cutouts, making it look like a scarf. He sang in the men's chorus. Joseph had a little scarf. It got old and worn. Okay, and so here we go. Now you can see it's an even littler one. And what does it look like? It's in the shape, I don't know if you can see it, it's in the shape of a necktie this time. So he made a necktie out of it. Okay, so here he is, there he is with his necktie. And he went to visit his married sister in the city. Joseph had a little necktie. And what do we know? We can tell from the pattern, it got old and worn. And so here we are, as it goes, it gets smaller and smaller. Okay, so we see this little tiny spot now. So he made a handkerchief out of it. And he drank a glass of hot tea with lemon. So we can see how now he's got a small handkerchief. And think about it, it started off as this giant overcoat, and here he is, and he's made a handkerchief out of it. Do we have any predictions of what's going to happen next? Joseph had a little handkerchief. It got old and worn. Okay, and so this time you're going to have to really look to find, because we know it's gotten smaller and smaller. Look now, it's that tiny little hole right there. Do you see it? Right here, a tiny little hole. So he made a button out of it. It's really small, it's hard to see. He made a button out of it. And he used it to fasten his suspenders. Joseph had a little button. One day, he lost it. So take a look at him. He's pretty panicked, looking around. And, you know, how do you think he might be feeling? He's panicked. He's had this overcoat that turned into a jacket, that turned into a vest, that turned into a scarf, that turned into a handkerchief. So clearly it's very special to him, and he can't find it. Now he had nothing. Okay, so there he is, and look at all the animals. So Joseph made a book about it, which shows you can always make something out of nothing. And so there he is, writing a story about it. And that is how the story of Joseph Had a Little Overcoat was written. And there's a letter from the author in the back. It says, "Dear readers, as a child I had a favorite song. It was a Yiddish folk song called I Had a Little Overcoat. Many years ago I adapted the song to make a book, and I called it Joseph Had a Little Overcoat. Some people noticed that Joseph looked a lot like me. Now you know that no artist is ever satisfied with his work, but usually we don't get to do it over. So I'm particularly happy to be publishing this newly illustrated version of Joseph. I hope all of you who wrote to me about the early version will take this one to your hearts. That would prove you can always make something out of nothing, over and over again. Sims Tabak." And there he is, his illustration of himself and Joseph. So that was called Joseph Had a Little Overcoat by Sims Tabak. And I hope that you made a connection that to some of, remember when we talked about in April, on Earth Day, we talked about reuse, remember reusing and upcycling, so changing things to make them fit a need that didn't start to be the need. So think about how Joseph did that. He had the overcoat. He changed it to be a jacket. He changed it to be a vest. So every time it was wearing out, instead of just throwing it in the trash, he said, you know what? I'm going to make it work for me. And he changed it to work for him. So we can do the same thing with different things. When we have things, we can do crafts with different maybe recyclables or cardboard things. We can reuse things lots of times before we throw them away. So we learned a lot from Joseph. I hope you enjoyed it. And as you know, I'm going to be reading every Monday at 7:30. So I hope that you'll tune in with me every Monday at 7:30. And I hope everyone is having a nice summer and staying cool. I miss you all. Bye-bye.